So today we're going to talk about one of the most important things I think that really nobody thinks about when they think about a slot car set, and reasons why consumers may have a problem with their initial use of a slot car set. It may not be very exciting, but we're going to talk about power supplies. Today, power supplies. We have three examples here from three different companies. We have Carrera, we have Skelectric, we have Policar. Yes, Policar. And the reason is going to be evident in a second. What you have with Carrera, this is a Digital 132, this is a old Profi and exclusive analog power supply that you could also use with a Digital 124 or Digital 132 system. It's a 16 volt power supply. This is a 14.8 volt power supply. Basically what you have to do with your average slot car track is really kind of learn to drive very, very quickly, even if you're a kid. You get these really beefy power supplies that are perfectly adequate for two cars on a track. I know all the guys like myself out there are probably thinking, well, yeah, I got a much more powerful supply for my wood track, but we're talking about home set use. We're talking about consumers just getting into the hobby. We're talking about the experience for the new person, not for hobbyists. Not for hobbyists, okay, guys? So when you get a slot car track home, you probably struggle with the instructions if you're a dad, or if you're a mom, or if you're a kid trying to put it together yourself. And you finally get it together, you turn it on, you grip it and rip it with the thumb throttle or the trigger, hopefully a trigger, frankly. And what usually happens pretty much immediately? The cars go off the track. Why? Because they're really too powerful for beginners. Most companies put a kind of a standard FC 130 Mabuchi, and those motors are good enough for the average person. Certainly good enough for the average hobbyist to race as well. We race a lot of those at my club. The problem really is there's no good way to turn the power down for beginners. You don't have an adjustable power supply. And what happens is, like I said, kids get excited, they pull the trigger, they put the thumb throttle down, and they just fly right off the track. And then, if you're in the hobby business, and I can't tell you how many times I've gotten this call, well, the cars don't stay on the track. Well, Mr. and Mrs. America, what do you mean the cars don't stay on the track? Well, my kid puts the car on the track, pulls the throttle, and the car flies right off the track. Well, you know you have to drive, right, Mr. and Mrs. America? Well, yeah, but my kids, they just want to fly around the track and drive real fast. Well, you can't do that. This is something that you know, if you've worked in any kind of consumer calls, every single company has had this issue, because it's a problem. Kids get overexcited, and there's no easy way to turn it down. Well, there have been some good solutions here. This is not running anyone down. There's ideas that have caught on, and there's things that you could do better that some companies are doing pretty well. So I thought I'd point those out. And again, this relates to consumers. This relates to the first-time slot car set buyer. Put yourself in those shoes if you're a slot car guy. So for Carrera, and I don't have a Go power supply here. I have one here, I'm sure, somewhere. These are entirely too powerful. The only thing that holds the cars on the tracks for any of these really is the magnets. Now, when magnets became a thing in the 70s, I guess that's when it happened, unfortunately, power supplies got more and more, got stronger, and you could fly around the track really fast, you wouldn't come off. But when you do come off the track, there's a lot more possibility of really bad damage. Now, this is the big problem that I have with magnets. I don't have a problem with magnets for consumers especially if it helps them to learn to drive, because yes, it does hold the car on the track, but really why they need to be there is because the power supplies are too powerful. That's really why they need to be there. So yes, they will hold the car on the track, but when they do come off, they fly off the track. And as anybody knows that is in the slot car hobby, pretty much everybody knows this. The home set cars, the companies don't make replacement parts for most of the cars anymore. They don't import them, certainly, into the U.S. There's good reasons for that. I'll talk about that in a future video. That's not the topic of this video. So, Carrera. What did we do when I was there? We put a little clip, and I'll see if I can find a picture of it. If I can't, you get the idea. The shaft of the controller, you know, the thumb throttle goes up and down. We put a little C-clip in there, and it was like a blocker, so the throttle could only go down so far. That meant that we didn't have to change the power supplies in any way. I have been talking for years with Carrera about trying to get an adjustable power supply, especially for the analog sets and the Go sets. Now the digital sets are different because digital needs a certain amount of power, minimum, a constant power, to keep all the accessories running, to keep the system running properly. So you really can't have an adjustable power supply with digital. What you do is you adjust it digitally, and that works well enough, but the vast majority of the sets they sell are Go sets, and the only thing to tone the power down is the little clip under the thumb throttle. Now that's not the best way to go about it. I mean, the little clip can come out, it can get lost. You know, someone might just want to take it out because it annoyed the kid or whatever. So really the best way, again, adjustable power. That's not available, like I said, in digital. So that's kind of where we are with Carrera. Okay, now we're going to move to Scalextric. Now recently, they've done some really cool stuff. For the analog sets, what they've done is, and this is a controller from the stock car set, what they've done is they have a little blocker at the bottom here. It's a fader switch that you can see that will only allow you to put the throttle down so much, and I'll move it that way. That's full throttle, and that's the least amount of throttle. So you see it only goes in a tiny little bit. So this is a really good idea. This really cuts down a lot on consumer complaints. It cuts down a lot on the initial experience of racers, of young racers, not having a problem with racing on their new slot car track. Now, as they get a little more adept at racing, sure, you can turn this down, you can fade it down so they get more power, and then gradually, you know, full power, and in theory, they can you know, really have mastered driving. The standard power supply, which these came out of the same set, it doesn't have any adjustment. It's just your basic transformer, like, you know, we're kind of all used to with the wall wart transformers. So this is a good idea. It's definitely a good idea. This cuts down on so many consumer calls. I can't tell you how many consumer calls just changing that amount of power adjustment would do. There's a tremendous amount of relief that both consumers and, you know, people on the back end that do the customer service, you know, it makes everyone's life just so much better. Recently, Polycar has done something, and they've taken this up a notch again. So this is the transformer for their track. Some people might have seen this, some people not. Oh, before I get too much further, this is a standard power supply that they got from a supplier in China. So consumer people have asked, and I asked as well, what's the there's a USB port on here. What's that for? Is that for, you know, digital connection or something like that? No, this was just kind of a standard power supply that was available to them, and it was price competitive and good quality. So this port is just a charging port. If you want to charge your phone with it, go right ahead. Anyway, so on the bottom here, and you see this when you get the set, you get two cool things. You get this little key. It's like a little flathead screwdriver, basically, is all it is. And you get the power supply, and on the back, what do you see? It's adjustable. I'll be darned. An adjustable power supply on a home set track. A set designed for the beginner, not for the hobbyist, for the beginner. So this really allows you to control this, and it's in great steps. It starts out the most power it has, 13.5, 12 volts, 10.5 volts, 9 volts, 7.5 volts, 6 volts, 5 volts. And it clicks every time. I mean, come on, guys. This is the simplest thing. And this alone is a really great reason to consider Polycar for sets. Yes, I'm consulting for them now, but no BS. This along with a number of other things that I'll get to in a future review, this alone is a really huge selling factor as far as I'm concerned. The wires are really good quality wires. They're not gonna snap really easily. They're going to take a lot of plugs and unplugs. That's called the mean time between failures in the production business. It's a European power supply with a little adapter on there, and I'm pretty sure that came with it because it's not. I don't think I put that on there. But anyway, so this alone, just having an adjustable power supply in the standard set is a huge, huge deal. Again, think about it from the consumer's point of view. You can turn this way down, and you get 5 volts. The cars you're going to be, the kid, for the littlest kid, they're going to be able to push the thumb throttle down because they are thumb plunger controllers in this set. They're going to be able to push it down, and they're going to be able to go around the track and feel like they're just flying. Now, obviously, as they get older, you turn that up a little bit. And the other thing is once this is plugged in, the dial on here to change the power supply power amount is kind of hidden. Well, what does a kid do if they see the little switch on the bottom here? Well, maybe they're going to go the whole way down so they have the full amount of power, and then you're back to the same problem. And then what do? You're fighting with the kid to keep the switch the whole way up, so they're only getting a quarter power or just a little less power. It would make so much more sense. I mean, the power supplies are essentially, they're identical. They're just a little power supply. I'm sure there's an easy way for any manufacturer to source an adjustable power supply. One of the problems is, and this is something that a lot of consumers might not know, the testing. The testing that is required to have an electronic component, an electrical component in a toy, so to speak, it's expensive. I forget what the costs are. I think I've heard over $10,000 a component. The required testing to get the safety labels, to the safety ratings to put the labels on sets. But anyway, it's expensive to change things once you have a set made, once you have a power supply already, set up for your track system. If you've brought it into the U.S. and you've had to have it tested, that's a significant amount of investment to invest in that testing. And I get why people wouldn't want to change it. I mean, if it was my money, of course, I wouldn't want to change it either. It just totally makes sense. But anyway, something to think about. An adjustable power supply for a home set track, for a starter set. Who'd have thunk it?